during that event. You were able to get those questions through the Ignites Facebook page. And we just want to really encourage everybody to vote on November 7th, and I appreciate the support that we have in our community. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the body?
Mr. Chair, I just want to add one voice to the hospital issue. Paul Cedar, who was
now we were going to have a discussion of that. If we can do that so later, but let's not do it now if we could. So are the public to address? In that case, minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move them. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Dr. Drain, you're up.
Thank you. Welcome to the friendly confines here at the college tonight. I appreciate the short commute. Good evening, everyone. I'll be relatively brief. You know, we started our new academic year since the last time we spoke, and had a number of recent announcements and kind of accomplishments that I'll just want to highlight. Last week, you may be aware, the City Council here in Auburn announced with us a partnership for allowing us to bring our athletic teams in the area of women's softball to play at Casey Park, starting as early as this spring. But the bigger opportunity for us is for us to make an agreement to bring men's baseball to the college. The college currently does not have a program in baseball, and we're looking to expand our offerings because not only do we think it's a great way to support a community interest that we know exists, but in addition to that, it's certainly something that helps us with enrollment and other future opportunities. So, you know, not having facilities of our own, which continues to be certainly something we want to strive for, you know, being able to work with community members like the school district when it comes to utilizing Holland Stadium when it's available to us for men's and women's soccer this fall, and certainly this opportunity with Falcon Park is going to be the only reason and the reason why we're going to actually be able to add men's baseball. So we're looking to make the formal announcement here in these couple of weeks because recruitment season for next year is upon us, and we want to be able to make sure we have adequate time to recruit student athletes to the college, but that actually won't take place until spring 2019, but we're looking to move that forward. Last month, there were a number of questions directed for me to talk a little bit more in detail about the enrollment of Cayuga County residents. And as our numbers get more firm for this year, which is really October, I will show you in presentation form, if you'll so indulge me, that I'll be able to show you in more detail. But I wanted to really reflect on 16, 17, 15, 16. We talk a lot in this body about FTEs, and the question came, well, how many students do you actually serve? How many students do you serve? So when we look back at 16, 17, for Cayuga County students when it comes to overall enrollment, the college served essentially 37% of our student body comes from Cayuga County, 37.68 to be exact. That's what, when you look at overall enrollment, that's what comes from Cayuga County residents and IEs from our sponsorship. It's very similar when you bring it down, though. When you look at our head count overall student body, it's actually just under 33%. Well, why would that be? Well, because we talk a lot about FTEs here, and we talk a lot about FTEs at college, but that's really just a metric related to budget financing. Head count-wise, what we're seeing is that we have over 2,250 students in 16, 17 enrolled at Cayuga Community College from Cayuga County. And that number overall is just under 33% of our student body. So when we look at who we serve a number of municipalities. Certainly our sponsor is where we continue to make sure that we have, you know, ultimately our focus and your support. But who we are really represents, you know, nearly 64% of our student body comes from other counties. And that's That's a positive because that means we're attracting people from all over to take advantage of our offerings here in Auburn, Fulton, and online in our high schools and so forth. But it's also an interesting phenomenon related to who we are based on our demographics. The other big piece that's important, and you'll see this in detail next month, but I want to highlight it now in the simplest form that I can. When we look at last year, our total unduplicated headcount, and we look at our total FTEs. Last year, when we look at 15-16, we ended up at FTE of 2669, full-time equivalent. When we look ahead to 2016 and 17, the year we just ended, at the end of August, we had an FTE of 2542. It's down approximately 4.5% overall. However, headcount-wise, we served about 90 more students. So when we talk about a college who may be on a decline when it comes to enrollment, when we talk about that often in a sense of the FTE or the budget factor, we're not talking about, really, last year was the first year we had where our headcount had increased from one year to another, regardless of the fact that we were down FTE in the neighborhood of 5%. So when we spin that forward to this year, we actually have budgeted a goal this year to be slightly ahead of where we were a year ago. And when we looked at that, I told you all last year, every month, I told you we were up 12%, 13% applications. Well, we've ended being up 9% in applications from last year to this year for our fall cohort. And we've also ended being up about 4% in enrollment when it comes to our new students. So that's not going to translate, and you'll see over time, to being up 4% this year because we were down in returning students a year ago. But the best indicator we can ever have as where we are today to where we can look for tomorrow is our applications up, and when you have applications up, are you capturing more students at the end of that time? And for this year, for new students, we have done that. Continue to focus our efforts on retention and so forth. But we also anticipate this year to have about 34% of our market share to be Cayuga County students, representative of that. And that, which means, we continue to focus a great deal on out-of-county students to be able to not only capitalize on chargeback opportunities, which help our overall budget and help our overall revenue, but certainly to make sure that we're serving students that we continue to serve. So I know that it would be easier in a visual form, but I know it was asked of me last month, and I wanted to be able to be more clear about that this month. Okay? In addition to that, it's early. It'll be more formal later on in the year, probably in December when we close out our audit process. But at year end, at this point, as I told you during our budget development process, we anticipated to end the year with having a goal of adding over $1.2 million to our college fund balance. And at this point, it looks like that goal will be reached, and if not exceeded, we're likely to be able to add to our fund balance close to the neighborhood of $1.5 million, which is there's no greater sign for an institution for us to be financially healthy, I think, and viable when it comes to really two things. Number one, you have a fund balance that ultimately exceeds the threshold that our creditors recommend, which is over 10%. This would do that. Actually, would bring our threshold closer to about 12%. And the other piece of it is that we're not living on our fund balance. We have created budgets the last 2 years that have been close to accurate, enrollment-wise, prediction-wise, which has resulted us to manage our spending accordingly, and has resulted in us to be able to reach our goals, which is to be able to get to the point where our fund balance is healthy. We have one fund balance, like you do, we have one fund balance, an institution with a long-term vision ahead, and we're also looking to make sure that when we create our budgets every year, we present them to you that you approve, consider that within reason, we want our expenses to only match what our revenues can produce. And that's been our commitment, that's been our trustees' commitment, and we'll continue to move that as we go forward. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Pankey.
2 questions.
Yep.
Full-time students 10 years ago.
Yep.
Where were we then on those numbers? Any idea?
I don't have 10-year-ago data in front of me, but I can tell you this. The biggest phenomenon that we face has been in 2012-13, Cayuga Community College demographics, the full-time to part-time ratio is 50-50. Today, our part-time student body is 65%. So if we're serving more students, they're not taking as many credits as they used to. And part of that reason is multifold, because we have tremendous growth in the high schools, tremendous growth online, and those students, by definition, are not full-time students.
Second part, competition-wise with other than OCC, Finger Lakes and our college to the south, where are we, or how are we holding our own
From an enrollment perspective,
enrollment?
well, I can tell you this, across the state, essentially every community college, with maybe the exception of one, and none of those were mentioned, have been in decent decline in recent years. That doesn't mean that we're all proud of that, but demographic shifts, the economy improving, a number of other factors are there. I can't speak in detail about where they are, but I do know that they have been, institutions have been in decline. And I think the conversation we're having with trustees right now, not to make light of the question, is who do we think we are? Who are we? And what do we want to offer? Are we meeting the needs of our community? And ultimately, I think we're proving that the financial strength of the institution isn't necessarily dependent on the size, and that we need to be able to make our financial strength and our investments based on resources. And I think we've been able to prove that although we might be down 400 FTE compared to what Key Community College was 6 years ago, I would argue that we're as financially healthy as ever.
Thank you.
Mr. Lattimore.
Mr. President, I support the institution. I'm an alumni of the institution. I was there Thursday night when you announced the baseball situation. If you notice, when I walk with a limp because I had a soccer injury when I was playing here. So so I think it kept me out of the war. But anyways, but my pet peeve is we have a platform here. It's an NASA platform. We have a lot of weather-related issues. As you come in the building, you see the governance of the Institute of Application of Geospatial Technology at CCC. I want, if there's anything we can do to save that from going somewhere else, I would appreciate that. Because I think that is a draw that nobody else has in the community colleges or even a four-year institution.
Any other? Mr. Didion.
Doctor, it sounds to me that the softball and the baseball program are going to be in. Would you say there's a good chance that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, what's the plan for student housing to take care of this? Because of the competition from past experiences of the college and of the area, there is a formidable foe, if you will, from these other schools that house people, and they're more apt to go where they can be housed and be comfortable, and instead of coming here and it's like a hit or miss, as the way I see it. Is there a plan to that, Doc?
There's always a plan. A couple of things to address your point. Number one, just to clarify, we already have softball. Our friends at Fort Byron have been housing our softball program for a number of years. This will just allow us to be able to find a field a little bit closer to campus and proximity. So that's not a new addition to our offerings. The baseball team is just clarified. I have made relatively no secret of the fact that with our trustees and with others, that at this point in time, I do not believe that student housing is the right choice for us. And that comes from a great deal of evaluation and insight. And I will tell you, I think we have a number of infrastructure needs, a number of programmatic decisions that need to be made in order to position us better for student housing. Athletics, by the way, I believe is one component of those, but one sport of potentially 25 to 30 student athletes is not going to necessarily be that particular answer. So working with our trustees, we are laying out a number of needs. Assessment. Part of those, by the way, are going to be a campus modernization plan. We're sitting here on our campus, and I'll use the opportunity when we walk through parts of our halls, it's beautiful. But we also know that many of you will tell me that when you graduate from here, some of the facilities are the same. And I will tell you, talk about a marketplace of competition. we need to be talking about a marketplace where our facilities not only meet our student expectations of tomorrow, but that they can exceed them. And so, and I'm not talking about needing to build more buildings necessarily or expand our footprint. I'm talking about repurposing the space that we have to meet our programmatic needs and to support our faculty in the way that we should be able to make sure that we're providing the tools for our students. The absence of being able to do that, the absence of having athletic fields to be able to have more offerings than what we can offer, the absence of being able to make sure that we can have the mental health services in place, that we can have the food services in place, that we can have the recreation and student life components in place, along with the most important one of public safety, student housing, we're not ready for that. And so I know that may be some different news for others to hear, but the only way that I'll ever endorse, recommend, or support student housing for this institution is that we can make sure that we have all the other components in place to make sure that when students choose to live on our campus, we can give them the best experience that they deserve, and we can meet their expectations, that they're a safe environment that helps them be set up for their success. I think it could be something in our future, in our near future, but until we do some other work, we're not ready.
Mr. Dennis.
Listening to all that, if you're gonna bring in more sports, because you think it's gonna, enhance the college, if you look at the demographics studies of the surrounding schools in this county, look at the graduation rates, 40, 50. So if you're gonna have sports, you're gonna be relying on local kids then, because no kid's gonna come here from 300-400 miles away to play baseball and go to this college and have to rent an apartment or something if he can go to a college where they've got dorms. And so it's kind of a, I don't know. I mean, I can't see you having one without the other myself, when if you're gonna just be totally relying on local talent. When local talent continues to dwindle more and more and more and more, and is going to continue to dwindle in this county. I firmly believe in 15 years you're going to see schools consolidated. You see them doing it now with their sports. So I think you're going to see it for their entire student populations. So how will that work?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, there are community partnerships that can be created to help support students live in. We've had a long history of athletics here where students are living in Lattimore Hall. They are running apartments, doing things. I mean, there are students who will choose to do that. But also, when you make a decision about something like adding a baseball team or any other athletic team offering, from my perspective, one of the main principles that you're looking at is what is the local interest? How does it align? If you look at recreation baseball in this community, look at high school baseball in this community within 30 miles from here, I believe there is rich talent that would like to be able to continue to play the sport and be able to compete at a high level. And by having this offering there, we'll be able to attract people from a distance. I also think we'll be able to attract people here locally. And it's no secret, many of you have actually told me that you know people that have chosen to go to other institutions because their chance to compete was not available to them here. And to go a step further, things like our theater program, our arts, our recreation, when you look at those types of extracurricular activities and offerings that can supplement the academic experience, those are reasons why students will choose one institution over another. So I believe it will be successful. I understand big picture, we need to look at both, but at this point, one team, one for 25 students isn't necessarily there. If we have the other facilities in place to be able to look at additional offerings, and we're talking about potentially 150 new student athletes to this campus, then I believe the conversation of student housing is much different, but we're just not there.
Any other questions? Mr. Foley.
Dr. Durant, you said at one point that there's a need for infrastructure, facilities, before you can even consider housing.
Yep.
I guess while we are on the topic, can you just clarify some of the work that needs to be done in order to get to that point that you mentioned might be happening, or you're looking to do upcoming?
Yeah. So we've been working diligently internally for probably the last year and a half, to be honest, of trying to assess various spaces on campus, and really to try to think creatively about the needs today and the needs for 10 years from now. Right? It's not just today's moment. And we've challenged ourselves internally to know that the college demographics continue to shift. The number of students are online, they're on full campus, on Auburn campus, they're serving in the high schools. Brick and mortar needs evolve. And so we're really in a position now where we've been looking at the entire campus, particularly in Auburn, because a lot of the Fulton work is more recent, and to be able to say, perhaps how we think about this space. And I'll give you a concrete example. We want to be able to create a learning commons here in our library to be able to infuse academic support in typical library services. If we are to do that successfully, that's going to free up a significant portion of the building that now can be repurposed for sciences and STEM and other things, which is going to allow us to reduce the need for those in other places. So it's a domino effect that honestly, as you can hopefully appreciate, takes a significant amount of time to be able to put majority of that vision together and then to be able to roll it out in one. You know, and I believe it's going to sound ambitious. It is ambitious. It's aspirational, but the failure of looking at something that's aspirational for us and for our community, I think is a failure of leadership. So if you'll just stay tuned a little bit, hopefully by later in this fall we'll be able to roll out something more comprehensive.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We have committee reports or individual reports from legislators. Ms. McCann-Coleman.
I just wanted to comment on a few things. This month I attended the Water and Sewer kickoff of their comprehensive study. I'm a member of the Water and Sewer Authority. They're mapping and assessing public and private water systems throughout the county, as well as looking into a second source of water. I'll be updating this regularly. I wanted to say thank you to the Health Department and the Watershed Inspection Program for all of their hard work that they've been doing and will continue to be doing in the next few weeks. Thank you. And specifically with communications and testing, I think they're doing a really great job and under these difficult circumstances. This Thursday is the Conservation Bus Tour that's being sponsored by the Soil and Water.